Okay, so I'm going to make this video because I'm noticing there's been a bit of a resurgence in interest in two of the videos that I did a while back. If you're watching this on Facebook, it's video post 132. That's the police commissioner cry for help, which is a red herring, and 121, which is criminal intent behind law enforcement. So if you're watching this on YouTube, the titles are the same, they just don't have numbers. So I decided to make this video to give more clarity. This section I guess I'm going to show you, this one blew up when I put it up. Got over 7.2 million views. So I'm going to start here and then we go into the explanation of it. Okay, so anyone who doesn't know what that was down in Victoria, in Melbourne at the Shrine of Remembrance. I'm pretty sure that was in September 21. Just shooting at people, obviously at the shrine. A lot of debate about who these individuals actually were. Some say they're imports from the UN. It doesn't really matter. The matter is that they're an individual with a moral compass and a conscience. That's the most important thing. And it's also more important that you, the viewer, who has the same moral compass and a conscience, does something about it. So that's the purpose of this video. And when I say do something about it, I don't mean just whinging and complaining and calling out, oh yeah, the criminals, and this should happen to them, etc. No, that's not anywhere near enough. So hopefully at the end of this video you'll understand what it is that the actual call to action that's required of a moral individual is. So we're going to get into the explanation. Mark Passio, someone I have a lot of regard for, has helped me clarify a lot of understandings and principles that have really helped advance my knowledge. So I'm hoping this is going to do the same for you guys. So here we go. And he, by the way, he used to be an ex, oh, what am I saying? He was an ex, I think it was in some kind of satanic church. So this guy knows all about the satanic world and the inversion of reality and how we're controlled through that. So let's have a listen to what he says about morality.
The painful truth, the order follower always bears more moral culpability than the order giver, for the reason that the order follower is the one who actually performed the action, and in taking such action actually brought the resultant harm into physical manifestation. Order following is the pathway to every form of evil and chaos in our world. It should never be seen as a virtue by anyone who considers themselves a moral human being. Order followers have ultimately been personally responsible and morally culpable for every form of slavery and every single totalitarian regime that has ever existed upon the face of the earth.
Okay, so before we continue, I've noticed a lot of people, not a lot but enough, get on and say, you know, in the last 3 years the police have totally changed, they've been subverted, etc., etc. This is what I mean about not understanding the principle of what morality is, and that's why I'm doing this video, is to understand that the whole institution of police has always been immoral. Very few people have understood it because they haven't been directly affected in a way where they've suffered enough to care, right? So now the only difference is that people have suffered enough to care because they've been on the pointy end of what they're truly about. Yet if you don't understand that the whole institution and the way it's set up, it's always going to end up like this. You're going to keep repeating the same problem, and it starts with you and your beliefs. So that's what we're really doing this video for. It's not because we want to just single out the police and how they're immoral. It's about you and why you believe in this institution as it is in its current format and the way it was set up from the beginning. When I say beginning, I mean as police and not as constables. So just making that distinction when it was actually a police force or a police service. Just the whole word police means to control. So that's what I'm talking about. Its whole inception was to control people and use people of the same, let's say we call them plantation slaves. You grab some of the plantation slaves who have a propensity to enjoy forcibly dominating and controlling others, and you make them the enforcers of the master's laws. And all the master's laws are just their dictates and whims. You know, that's pretty much it, and prejudices. So let's listen on.
That's the painful truth that people don't want to accept. because they want to believe the absolute nonsense that order following is a virtue of any kind. And it needs to be obliterated from the face of the earth, because it's not the way to any kind of virtues or order. It's the pathway to evil and annihilation. That's what it is.
So a lot of people, I'm going to say this again, have accepted it, that you need government, and when I say government, I mean a ruling class, concealing themselves in the institution of government, to, dictate what the right and the wrong way to behave is, and then dish out punishments for that behavior. Otherwise, there's going to be chaos. That's the overwhelming belief, that people can't organize themselves naturally, and therefore we need something that has more power than us to do that for us. That entire belief is the sickness that runs every atrocity on this planet. So until that shifts, that's what he's basically saying, we're going to stay on this hamster wheel forever.
Responsibility versus abdication. So why don't these people want to think for themselves? It's too easy to just follow the orders of somebody else. They believe somehow magically this absolves them of personal responsibility to choose right from wrong. An individual's personal responsibility to choose right action over wrong action for themselves always belongs to that individual. And that responsibility can never be given to another person or passed along. One can only claim and imagine that they can abdicate their personal responsibility for such choice to someone else. It can never actually be done in reality. You're only making a claim, I'm not responsible for that behavior because this person told me to do it. That's just a claim. And moreover, what it really is it's just a damn lie. Okay? More simply put, an individual is always personally responsible for their own actions, period, and the end. If you did it, you're responsible for it. There are no cop-outs. Stop trying to make excuses or justifications for criminal behavior. Own up to personal responsibility. If you did wrong action, you did it. You caused it. I like how David Icke words this. He says, accept responsibility for yourself and your actions, thoughts, and words. You alone make these choices, so you alone are answerable to the consequences of your behavior. The feeble excuse that your boss required it, that the establishment expected it, holds no truth or justification.
Okay, so just want to go back to before he went to that last sentence about the feeble excuse. The section up above that. It's also speaking to every single viewer of this and every single individual on the planet, is that you and only you are responsible for your thoughts, emotions, and actions. If you don't understand how you're controlled, that doesn't change the fact that you're responsible for what you do because of how you're controlled. Right? Your responsibility is to care enough to understand that possibly, and most likely, pretty much all of your thoughts don't belong to you, that they've been programmed into you. And if you don't follow your moral compass, if you override that, because your moral compass is the intelligence center that will help you discern what actually belongs to you and what's been programmed into you, because you'll get that gut feeling when you feel something's not right about what you're doing. If you ignore that, that's when you yourself are responsible for that ignoring of those signals that are embedded in you. Right? That's your intelligence working overtime. And so if you believe that, there should be a police force, right, and it's only in the last few years that they've sort of gone awry, that's your responsibility for how we've got to this part now, where they've gone out of control, right? You can't step back from that now. It's not possible. And if you don't do anything to change your own ways of understanding reality, the way it actually is, then you're responsible for all the things you're complaining about, because you're not shifting the internal state that's required to eradicate this problem forever. That's pretty much at the heart of what this is about. So I'm just repeating that because a lot of people forget and they don't stop and pause and re-listen. So that's why I'm repeating it.
What is the point of having principles if you allow others to dictate your behavior? Really, those who allow others to dictate their behavior don't have principles. And there's a reason they don't have principles, because they hate themselves. They're in psychological self-loathing, and there's a reason they're in that state. which my future work is going to cover in depth, in extensive depth and detail. At the end of the day, you will judge your performance and the contribution you've made to creation. It will not be based on what another expected of you or what you did because you felt trapped. Like, oh, there's no other way. I can't envision my way out of this. I can't envision doing something else. I might have to get another job. I might have to read and learn. I can't envision becoming a different person than the identity I've already forged for myself. How could I possibly imagine that? I have all my eggs in this basket. My whole ego identity is all wrapped up in my job and what I do. That defines who I am. You know, I can't go against that. It's all nonsense. It's all what people are doing just because they feel trapped and they can't imagine that there's another way.
Now, this just doesn't refer to people who take up the role of being a police officer. Obviously, that's the critical end here. However, it's anyone who has any job where they're doing things that they know in their heart goes against their standards. And what they do is they compartmentalize it. So, well, I'll make the exception because I need this job. If I don't, I can't survive, etc., etc. That doesn't change the actual responsibility you bear for making that choice. You can give yourself all those excuses you like. However, that still doesn't change the responsibility. And that's why evil is allowed to be manifested in this planet, is because of all the people who go, oh, I'll just overlook that one this time. Right? It's all those times you do it. So this is what's truly at stake here. If you are truly serious about freedom, it's about you taking responsibility for your beliefs and how you shift the way you, your beliefs to fit with your actions, especially when they're out of alignment with your moral faculties. And the police are just like the extreme end, same as the military of that. However, the actual underlying principle is the same. And so now we're going to see someone who's from the Victoria Police Port Authority, I think it's a public order response, actually, I guess, exemplify what's just been explained here. So here we go.
If you've had enough as much as us, why are you still enforcing the police? We have to.
We get paid to do this, mate. I'm just as over this fucking protest as you are. By protest, I mean lockdown.
Fair enough.
Unfortunately,
Fair enough.
I've got to do what I've got to do. And I'm not skilled to do anything else, mate. So unfortunately, at this time of my life, that's what I have to do.
So you would have heard him say he's not skilled to do anything else, right? I've done this a few times in other videos. However, it's always worthwhile to keep bringing this back to the fore of people's minds, just so they can see that this is not made up. This is actually how people function in their minds, what the tricks they play on themselves so they can be immoral and then believe that they're being virtuous for doing so.
Sounds good. We don't get paid. We're not getting food at the moment.
I hear you, mate. At the end of the day, I agree with you.
Then why are you standing on this side and not with us?
That's what I get paid to do.
So, like he's just showing you right there, right? He doesn't see that he's got worth in any other way other than this. These are the only skills he has, so he's going to go do it. That's as simple as he's left it. He hasn't done anything different to that. Alright, so now I've made a video short. If you're interested, please pop in something in the comments and I'll release it as a short. Just be interested to see how many people will do that. It basically sums what's been discussed here up in under a minute. So here we go.
You, a mere mortal, born of we the people, willingly chose to become a paid professional predatory aggressor that indulges the sadistic pleasures and appetites of your parasitic political masters, through the use of indiscriminate lethal violent force and intimidation, to terrorize individuals defending their innate rights into submission. The stench of emptiness and self-loathing you conceal reeks like a rotting corpse, and is only equaled in severity by the callousness and cruelty you display towards the victims of your aggression, which intensifies with each passing day. There is no virtue in following orders. Neither a legal construct, costume, weapon, nor militarized force can absolve you of the moral culpability you carry, when you willingly suppress your moral conscience to derive pleasure from the violent subjugation of another person's inherent freedoms.
Okay, so if that's something you found valuable and you'd like to share, just pop something in the comments and I'll release it separately as a short, because we do need to start getting this knowledge out. It is your responsibility as someone with a moral compass to actually educate not only yourself, but to educate others on what true moral principle is. And things like this could be a fast way to just to trigger some kind of interest with people who are already down that path. It's not going to be people who've got their head buried in the sand. Obviously not. They're going to resist this stuff. But anyone who's down that path, it could be that tipping point. So please pop it in the comments, and then I'll know if there's enough interest to release it. Now, next thing, I've just made a little slide here, but you can insert this in any letter. It can be to anyone, obviously in the police, any other government department, anyone who's insisting they have authority over you. Could be someone in banks, doing something that's immoral that because you'll know, because your feelings will tell you, right? Your nervous system is your intelligence. It's your biological intelligence as to when you're being violated, right? So something like this, you can insert it into a letter, or you can have as a standalone letter. We're basically speaking to the individual that can't hide behind their prejudices and biases. This doesn't allow that to go straight to the heart of it, and their conscience will hear this. And so this is what we really need to start doing if we're serious about taking action, and start turning attention onto that neutral, observable ground of objective morality. So it says, no matter how strongly you believe that your actions align with a higher authority, because most of them say, they'll quote some kind of legislation or some version of some policy or procedure, your inherent moral faculties dictate a personal responsibility to choose the right course of action over the wrong one. The assertion that you can delegate personal responsibility for your choices to a perceived authority figure doesn't change the fact that you ultimately make the final decision to act. Any action you take that goes against your moral compass, recognizing it as morally wrong based on universal principles, is essentially a transgression and therefore a crime. No form of justification can alter this fundamental reality. So that's just short, sharp, to the point. It's real easy. You can just pop it in a letter. You can, direct it to some specific action that's happened if you want to make it, clearer. But there it is, guys. You can do it for anything. If there's someone in child protection who's violating your, for example, your free will choice of how you live with your children, perfect one to send to those people, because they're deeply got their heads buried in the sand, every single one of them. Because for some reason they just believe they have the moral right to dictate how you need to function. So another call outs, if this is something that interests you, I'd love to see in the comments who's sent it off, just out of interest. Just pop something in the comment that I'm going to attach this into a letter, or I'm going to send this off as it is, and who you imagine you'd want to send that to. Okay, so we're just going to go to one more thing by Mark Passio, and he talks about the ignorance of morality, and that's true objective morality. This is really important, guys.
This is the nature of the problem. The bulk of the human species does not understand morality and natural law. If that is corrected, we will be able to manifest true freedom. If that continues to remain the case, that humanity remains, the overwhelming bulk of human beings remain ignorant of objective morality and natural law, true freedom cannot ever manifest.
Okay, just before we go ahead, some people might observe that it says Anarchy and the Occult Part 3, so I'm just going to hopefully help anyone who's panicking about those words right now, thinking this is something subversive to sort of create some kind of destruction of society, disorder. The word anarchy actually means absence of rulers, or a ruler. That's the actual true meaning, not what you've been taught. You've been taught it means the absence of rules. No, you're living under the rules of nature. That's what anarchy is, and the rules of nature are that we are free to voluntarily choose to with who we associate with and who we disassociate with. So it just basically means voluntary interaction, which is what most people do on a daily basis. That's all it means. And if you don't have a ruler, then you can do that easily. Occult just means knowledge that's hidden from the eye, things you can't see or figure out with your five senses. It's more about spiritual knowledge and also psychological, how the mind is controlled by the environment and the perceptions that can be manufactured and manipulated by those who know more about it than you. Okay, let me continue.
Can not. Not only will it not, it is not possible to manifest that condition by cosmic law. So the ignorance of objective morality and natural law leads human beings to erroneously believe that human behaviors that are based in the concept of authority are morally legitimate and acceptable. Listen to what I said again. Ignorance of objective morality makes people believe in their own mind that behaviors that are based in authority are perfectly morally acceptable.
So, for example, most people don't agree that some random stranger can just stop them in the street and shake them down for their money, right? Yet, you will see police do that all the time, stopping people, that's why they call them road pirates, and shaking them down for money, like giving them a fine. And if they don't, then they're going to get punished even harder, right? The tax office does the same. The council, etc., etc. And most people legitimize that because they don't stand up against it. And the whole point of this is that you understand that if you don't stand up against it, you legitimize it by the sheer fact that you don't stand up against it. And there are peaceful ways to do it, and that's what we're working towards, which I'll point to you at the end of this video.
Is that not the case? Is this not the very simple, logical fact of the matter? People worldwide, in the bulk of human civilization, still today in 2023, don't know what the simple difference between right behavior and wrong behavior is, folks. That's the fundamental nature of the problem. People don't know. Worldwide, people don't know what the difference between right and wrong is. I want you to hear that deeply and let it sink into your brain, let it sink into your mind. That's the fundamental nature of the problem. Yet, how many people, percentage-wise, are saying this to people?
Ultimately, that's really where change happens, guys. It's not through some external leader, someone who we believe is going to save us, who knows better than us. It's about us taking the initiative to educate not only ourselves, but everyone else that we meet on the same principles. And the more people that start saying it, the easier that's going to grab. And so that's what you have a choice to do. Okay, so the whole point of this video obviously is that you take action. Here's one thing you can do. It's all steeped in the 1215 Magna Carta because that's the only binding agreement that still exists today in any nation of the Commonwealth that is the correct standard upon which the people agree to live under a system of service, which is not government. So we're making a distinction there, right? Government means to control. It was never that. It was a system of service where there was volunteers who would agree to provide services to the people, and to do that, there had to be a set of rules in place which they were to adhere to in order to be able to take up that position. Okay, so this is something you can do. It's specifically to the police, but it still shows you where the site is and all the other information that's on there. So if you're ready to act, guys, you just go to magnacarta1215.com. There it is. You'll click on News and Articles. This will take you here, and then you just scroll down, and you'll see here there's a cover letter to download, and then there's the 12 points. It's like a flyer. So just showing the cover letter. There it is up here. It's always officer in charge because that way it goes to whoever's the highest ranking officer on that day when they get the mail. The red part is just showing the editable bits, so you would change that obviously in accordance with the station that you're sending to, and then just change to black after that. But I just want to scroll down quickly. I want to go to this bit here where it talks about what's coming for them down the pike when enough people work it out, and the correct system that we're supposed to be working under, which is trial by jury, where the people assess the crimes committed against them, because they're the victims of it. So who's better to assess it than we're the victims, and the consciousness of the community, because there's a neutral space there. So it just says that they won't be standing in front of any government-appointed judges, magistrates, or court officers because they're their protection right. They've created a legal protection network, which is just a way to conceal crime. So that will be gone. They won't have that. And then it just says what's coming from them down the pike is the things that they're looking at: trespass, assaults, thefts, extortions, threats with menaces, malfeasance in public office, etc. Are most severe for sworn officers of the law who brazenly and without apparent remorse assume the role of criminals, which is pretty much what they're doing, hands down. There's not one there that could get away with it. The offences extend all the way to sedition, which means publicly denying the validity of the Constitution, and misprision of treason and high treason, which carry respectively the punishments of full asset stripping and life in prison or even the gallows. Then it goes on to say 2 final points for consideration. 1, people who commit crimes at the behest of others are always vulnerable to the risk that the order givers might decide to tidy up loose ends by disposing of the order followers preemptively. An example of which is given in the second QR code. And the other one is most people are of the type willing to grant clemency to those who display remorse or are willing to assist in the apprehension or cessation of ongoing crimes. So it's just signed Commonwealth Constitutional Alliance. So it's all covered, guys. You don't have to put your name to it, anything like that. And there's the 12 points there. I've covered it in previous videos. So that's all the QR codes that are on there. I'm not going to read into it too much. You guys can read it into your own time. It's pretty potent, powerful. So that's all I wanted to show you. So if you're ready to back it, it's all done for you. You just need to put it together and shove it in an envelope. And you've got instructions on the website of how to do that.